All right, everyone, they've done it again. The U.S. government managing to fuck something up. Let's think about infrastructure in a more holistic manner here. Let's say that you have a company town where 10, 15,000 workers are living, and a factory some distance away where they actually do their work. Some of them do trucking, some of them do janitorial work. You've got clerks, accountants, lawyers. You've got people on the floor, the factory floor, robotics experts, whatever the hell you happen to have. And let's say that the road that links the town to the factory is deficient. It's a dirt road, or, it's just 2 lanes with a culvert on the side. It floods out all the time. There's inclement weather. There's not enough snow clearing, etc. What you can do is attempt to raise the efficiency. Right now you've got a speed limit of 25 or something like that. It's a really deficient old-style road, like most of them here in the state of Vermont or elsewhere in New England. It's not very efficient. The workers have to get up a half an hour early to get there. Sometimes the road is flooded out or has some sort of problem on it, so you can't even get to work. And so this factory is not operating at maximum efficiency. Short term, what you can do is invest in improving that road. Maybe you add an extra lane, you clear off to the sides, you get better drainage and stuff, so it's more passable. Now you can raise the speed limit. Now the speed limit's 50 and stuff like that. People can wake up 20 minutes later because they can get to work faster, taking stress out of their day. The factory output will be higher. It'll be more efficient. There will be less days when they're operating with a skeleton crew because people can't get there, etc. Now this is a very reductionist sort of example, but I'll tell you where I'm going. The Gaza Pier is having issues. And that's a big fucking problem. Right now, half of Gaza is literally starving to death. They are suffering from systemic malnutrition. I'm almost surprised that there hasn't been a cholera outbreak at this point because of dirty water being consumed by people who can't get the bottled water that's being sent there. You do not have to be Team Palestine to understand the wider-reaching implications of such a scenario. You have an enormous number of people packed into a very small area of land, and you're trying to get more aid to them. The idea from the Biden administration, I actually praised this initially. I said, okay, you're absorbing the cost of constructing this pier, but then it costs a lot less to actually get the aid to the Palestinians that is necessitated because of our involvement in this war. I supported the concept, but they can't even do that right. Rough seas have damaged the pier. Oh yeah, it might take a little while for us to repair things. I talked about this last night with the quartering, of course, on our live stream. I'm his co-host, and we were talking about the Gaza Pier. One of the big problems is bureaucracy. You have one dude who's authorized to use the wrench, one dude who's authorized to use a hammer, one dude who has his training in how to screw in a screw, and so on forth. And it makes it while you're trying to make it more standardized and more efficient, you're actually making it less efficient. It would be better if you just put a bunch of grunts on these piers and said, yeah, whack away at it until it works. Yeah, of course, the bureaucracy wouldn't like that, though. That's the whole problem. This has become a disappointment. One of the things that the Biden admin had presumptively begun to do, which would actually save the U.S. taxpayers money, if you're going to send the aid, having this pier here in order to unload and load supplies would make a lot more sense. You have to have it offshore. You can't have it in Gaza itself. It'll just get attacked over and over. One of the things that would have saved money, in the long term, it looks like it's just going to cost more money. It's like watching a government road crew. And this is why we should deregulate and have infrastructure built by civilians mainly, by people who know what they're doing and have a reason to do it. It's like a government road crew. It's 5 dudes standing around with their shovels, and they're always resting on their shovels. And no shit, I see it all the time. Watching one dude very slowly scooping, chunks of tar into a pothole or something like that. That's the equivalent. But people are starving to death. There's a little bit more of an impetus here. This isn't just, hey, we're trying to create a greater convenience for the daily commuters in Windsor County to be able to go to the store or to go to work or something, or to go on trip or something like that. This is more like, hey, hundreds of thousands of people, mainly children, are currently not getting anywhere near enough food, and it's going to fuck them up really badly. And if cholera breaks out, by God, imagine what an epidemic that would be. Yeah, you'll have your pandemic. 1 million people will die. They'll shit themselves to death. Not exactly what I want for Palestinian civilians, by the way. Link in the description. Archived, of course. You can't even build an offshore pier at this point? By the way, what does this say about our military readiness? It was at peak readiness back in the 90s. Trump sort of got it back up to speed after a lull. What does it say about our troop readiness? Our capability of building technically military infrastructure. We're sending MREs and stuff like that, by the way. You can always, airdrop some of those MREs into the backyard. Put them on a cargo plane with a parachute and stuff. Don't worry, I'll requisition them. When I see what's in that crate, I'll be very happy. Especially if it's the vegetarian lasagna. Discontinued several years ago, but still perfectly edible. They last forever. And I don't appreciate it when so-called activists in Palestine say these MREs suck, because I eat them on a regular basis because they're amusing to me. I've still got to do that South African MRE that Anton sent me. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow or something, this weekend. The fact that we built this pier at great taxpayer expense, and it's not working, self-evidently it's been damaged, simply because of rough seas. Okay, there was a breeze, there was choppy water, and it started coming apart. Of course, yeah, because there's too much bureaucracy. Because the dude that's authorized to use the hammer and the dude that's authorized to use the nails, maybe they didn't coordinate properly together. That's the state of the U.S. military. It's the opposite of the advantage that we had a century ago. Enemies analyzed the U.S. military during both World War I and World War II and came to the same conclusion. The U.S. military is so out of order. That is, that there's no communication, these people don't coordinate well together, they ignore the rules all the time, they're sloppy. But that gives them an advantage. We don't know what they're going to do at any given moment. They might cover the tank with pine logs as a form of primitive armor against our artillery shells, or some crazy shit like that. In the field, they tend to improvise. It gave us a huge advantage. And when anybody who has joined the military says, yeah, my daddy was an auto mechanic, open up this tank, I bet I can repair it, you do better than the alternative. Some of that is romanticism about, like, especially the World War II period in the U.S. military there. Like, you look at The Longest Day or something like that. Some of that is mythology. Some of it has been legitimately analyzed by third-party nations, and it's actually real. It gave us a huge advantage. Have a bunch of civvies and grunts. Just throw anything you can at this pier. Have people who understand how to use a wrench, how to use a hammer, and have them slap it together. It'll work just fine. It'll be a lot cheaper. Hell, you're already paying them anyway, so for the extra time, they're not getting any overtime pay or something. They'll do it for free. Have them slap it together. Have the U.S. Marines will just start firing bullets in instead of screws or something like that. Have a bunch of people that know what they're doing. Have the lower commanders delegated. Okay, I've got somebody in my company that understands mechanics. Go to the pier. Help it work. Well, that's a lot cheaper now, isn't it? Than having some bureaucrat that doesn't know anything about construction or architecture or any of these things delegating authority. That's the problem with the U.S. military today. We need to go back to a more primitive era, actually, militarily. For anything other than the deployment of nuclear weapons. It should be slipshod. It works better. That's about all. Peace out.